Yo, what's good everybody? Welcome back to the 21 part guys. Today we're going to go over Terry's recovery. Terry's recovery honestly is a lot different from the Shoto's recovery. It takes a lot more anticipation. You have to be way more careful with your options because they're not as safe as it is with the Shoto's, and they're not as quick. And Terry also doesn't snap to ledge, so a lot of ways you have to bypass Terry's pretty bad recovery. His recovery is really not that great. I wouldn't say it's terrible, but it's definitely on the lower end of the spectrum in comparison to the rest of the cast. But there's ways to get by, ways to work around his recovery, his below average recovery, and to make it kind of difficult for your opponent to punish. The cool things about Terry's recovery is, especially when you're trying to do Rising Tackle, the charge version of Rising Tackle needs to be done during animations, so you can do it during like your Power Wave, your Crack Shoot, your Burn Knuckle, your Power Dunk. You can do the charge during these moves. You can do it during your double jump. You have to save it during, your animations, but we'll get into that as we go on. It's just gonna take a lot of understanding and breaking down how Terry's mechanics all overlap and how you can use those moves to come up with new creative ways to make it back to ledge. Alright, so when recovering with Terry, you have a lot of tools you can use to make it back. Like I said, they're not safe and they can be predictable if you use them in the same ways multiple times. But that aside, you can come up with creative ways to make these tools work in your favor. So first off, we have Crack Shoot, we have Burn Knuckle, you have Power Wave, which you get to understand why Power Wave. I'm using Power Wave as a recovery tool. It's really good. We have Power Dunk, we have Rising Tackle, and then you have your double jump and your air dodge, which you're going to need all of these tools to make it back to ledge, to make it back to stage, and I'll show you exactly why. So first, we're going to start off with Power Wave, okay? So I mentioned earlier that you can use Power Wave as a recovery tool, and why is that? Well, Power Wave has this hover effect for Terry, and also puts out a hitbox in front of him to keep your opponent back. So let's say your opponent's trying to run off stage and hit you, and you throw out a quick Power Wave. You can hover, get back away from them, and throw out a hitbox to make them back up for sure, just to make sure to check your opponent before they come out and hit you with something, right? But this hover only works on your first jump, okay, or the first Power Wave in the air. Not your first jump, but the very first Power Wave used in the air. If you use a second Power Wave, you just keep falling. A third, keep falling. Only the first one has the hover mechanic, so make sure you save it. Make sure you save the hover for your one and only Power Wave you're going to be using off stage. You don't want to use it multiple times. You're only going to use it once, alright? So make sure you save that hover for this one specific Power Wave you're going to be using off stage. I will show you another cool technique of why Power Wave is useful, but that's going to come together as we continue to progress down the list of his specials. Next up, we have Crack Shoot. Crack Shoot's way safer to use than Burn Knuckle when recovering, mainly because it's like a lot faster. Like, he literally slings himself way faster than the Burn Knuckle does, especially heavy Burn Knuckle, because it's like a startup to it, right? Crack Shoot is just boom there, and it also covers Terry from above. The hitbox is way bigger, and it sends your opponent right back to stage, right? That's literally all there is to Crack Shoot, to be honest, when off stage. For me, I usually go for the input when going for Crack Shoot off stage, mainly because of the fact that if I don't go for the input, I might end up Crack Shooting the other way, like that. But sometimes, people hold stage and then they flick back to do it. So it depends on how you are as a player. A lot of times when people get hit, they hold towards stage, then click the back B, like back special, and it works that way for them. It's all down to you as a player. I honestly, pressing back special like that isn't really that hard. Probably might need to do that more. I'm taking tips from myself as I'm making the guide, but yeah. Keep that in mind. You can either do the input variation or you can just do the back special variation. It doesn't really matter, it's up to your preference. Next up, we have Burn Knuckle. I actually like going for this move more often, but I should stop using it because it's not safe. I like using Burn Knuckle because, unlike Crack Shoot's angle that you send your opponent is upwards, right? Burn Knuckle is they send you straight forward, basically, like directly into the direction he punched you. So if someone's trying to edge guard me and I go for Burn Knuckle and I hit them, right? If I intercept the edge guard by using a quick Burn Knuckle, my opponent has to either land their tech or is going to be untechable of his later percents. And if that happens and they miss their tech or it's untechable, then I take their stock, right? And I really love when situations like that go down because I turned an edge guard situation into a stock lead for me. And I definitely think that you guys should try implementing that into your gameplay here and there. It's not safe whatsoever, but only do it when you feel confident that you can intercept their edge guard. If you can't intercept the edge guard, don't go for it, or else you're going to die. Because like I said earlier, this move is not as fast and it's not as safe with the hitbox. So make sure you know when to use it. and make sure you know if you're going to use it that even if you do get edge guarded, that you didn't burn off all your tools to make it back. You can make it back safely. Next up, we have Terry's Power Dunk. Now, Power Dunk's a really good move because of the fact that one, it's invincible on the startup, so you can use this when you're about to get edge guarded. And you just Power Dunk through the attack, and then you ignore your opponent and make it back. Another cool thing about Power Dunk that I really love is when you use the input variation, you get a spike at the end of the heavy variation, right? So heavy input Power Dunk, you get a spike on it. But here's the deal. I only go for the input when I'm going for heavy. If I'm not going for heavy, I do just the regular down B variation because it doesn't really matter with the down B because of the fact the only thing you're gonna lose is damage, right? But if you go for the down B and the light variation, I only go for this because I want to use the ability to drift and choose where I want to land. So y'all, as you guys know from earlier when I talked about Power Dunk, heavy and light Power Dunk, you can choose which way you're going to land when you use the light variation. You can change your drift on the descend, right? So that's the only time I go for the light variation. I'll just change it up and try to get my drift and change up where I'm going to land. If my opponent knows I'm gonna go for Power Dunk, I like to use it because it's a lot harder to react to as well because you have less frames on the peak of the attack when you use the light version. He goes up and quickly comes down. So it's harder for my opponent to catch me off guard when I'm using my Power Dunk. Another rule people need to keep in mind is make sure that when you're using Power Dunk, don't use it above stage if you're too close to the stage, okay? Because that's really easy to punish, especially against people with like big hitboxes who have easy like edge guard tools. You want to use the Power Dunk at the point where the peak is around the ledge height. That way it's a lot harder to punish, and Terry can definitely make it back if you do rising tackle afterwards. So let me give you guys an example. Alright, so a cool thing that you guys saw in that example is when I use the Power Dunk and I just descend, I was riding the ledge basically. So it's really hard for my opponent to punish me when I'm covered by the ledge for most of my Power Dunk right here, right? And when that happens, if they do try to go down and contest, I'll just beat them up with my invincible recovery, my rising tackle, and most times I win that altercation. So whenever I want to use Power Dunk, I use it either when I'm really high up and like it's really hard for my opponent to get a quick punish on me, or I use it when I'm really low and I can just ride the stage and make it back. Now if I do it really high up, I have to use Crack Shoot or Burn Knuckle to make it back for sure, to make it back safely. So I'll probably go a little lower after I do it really high up and then snap from there. But that aside, make sure, like I said, Power Dunk's not the move you want to always spam. There are a lot of Terry mains who are so bad at this move. If I knock you off stage, right, like if you're playing Terry, you get knocked off stage, don't immediately Power Dunk. Alright, that's dumb. That's what you don't want to do. You only use this move as a last resort or a mix-up, right? Or use it here and there. Every time I knock a Terry off stage, I just wait for them to Power Dunk, they do it, and I kill them. You don't want to always use Power Dunk when you're trying to recover. You don't always have to use that, guys. It's a good move, but if you spam it every time you're recovering, you're definitely going to get red over and over again, and then that's when your recovery starts to feel like it's trash. I'm guilty of this here and there, but I'm at least aware of why it happens, and Terry mains need to be more aware of that, because if you just get killed off stage over and over again for spamming the same option, you definitely should open your mind up and ask yourself, why is that happening, and realize that it's because you're spamming a very laggy and obvious move over and over again. Next, we have Rising Tackle. Now, the cool thing about Rising Tackle is there's 4 variations, like I've talked to you guys about. It has the non-input variation, then it has the input variation. It has a light and heavy variation for both of those variations, so that makes 4 in total, right? So if I want to recover not too low, I can just go for a light Rising Tackle, make it back to ledge. Or if I want to recover a little later, I can go for a heavy Rising Tackle. Now, the cool thing is the heights change depending on which variation you go for, input or non-input. Input has more distance, non-input doesn't. Now, input also gives you full body invincibility, which is what you want to go for when you're off stage. So the way to snap your input recovery is you want to go really deep, right? You want to go like really deep and then do the input, right? If you don't go deep enough, Terry's feet is going to go above, like I'm going to show you right here. His foot's going to go above ledge, and you're going to get 2 framed to hit for that. And you don't want to be able to put yourself in that position, because that's what makes Terry's recovery bad. People say Terry can't snap with his recovery, which is true-ish. His recovery doesn't automatically snap, like let's say Lucina's, where they up B and they grab the ledge immediately, right? You have to find the sweet spot. It's kind of like Ken and Reeves. You have to find the sweet spot of the recovery. Right there, I missed it because I turned around on accident. But you have to find the sweet spot. When you find the sweet spot, it's going to be way easier for Terry, because at the end of Terry's recovery, his foot's still invincible. So if you hit the sweet spot properly, it's going to be almost impossible to 2-frame you there. So the cool thing with the input recovery is you want to do the input when you're in the middle of an animation. And what do I mean by that? So you want to use this input, like charge the input as soon as you do a double jump, right? You want to do the input as soon as you do a power wave. You want to do the input as soon as you do a power dunk. You want to do the input as soon as you do a crack shoot or a burn knuckle. Why? Because while you're in the middle of an animation, you won't be able to fast fall, right? Like you won't be put into the fast fall animation because you're already in the middle of another animation, and fast fall doesn't cancel out specials, right? So whenever you go for a special, immediately, or your double jump, immediately press down. That cancel. If you do your double jump right here, for example, if you do double jump and press down, it just cancels out, right? Like the momentum just cancels out. It's gonna ignore your downward input, and instead you're gonna be charging. You're not gonna fast fall. So if you're off stage, you hold down while you double jump, it's just gonna cancel out the holding down input for a fast fall and just make it a charge output or charge input. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure you store your rising tackles inside of another animation, and I'm gonna show you some really cool mix-ups you can do with it. Alright, right here I can crack shoot, rising tackle, made it back to ledge, right? Alright, so this time I'm going to power dunk, rising tackle. Holding in, power dunk, rising tackle. Boom, made it back to ledge. I'm doing the input variation while I'm inside the power dunk animation. That way I can get the charge on. Right now, this time, I'm going to burn knuckle, rising tackle. Boom, it works, okay? Now the next two times I'm going to double jump, rising tackle, which you guys have seen me do in this guide already. Double jump, rising tackle, right? Now the next one I'm going to show you guys is my favorite. I'm going to power wave, rising tackle. I'm going to put my percent down a little bit so I don't go too far. Alright, so I double jump, power wave, rising tackle. I was storing it in the power wave the entire time. So I'm gonna do it without a double jump this time to show you guys. So he's gonna F smash me. I go off stage, power wave, rising tackle. You can store the input in the middle of these moves because they last long enough for Terry to get that charge in. I think that's probably implemented on purpose by the developers, but you use that to your advantage. So the power wave, rising tackle makes Terry hover for a bit. Let's say someone is spamming 2-frame moves like Falcons down there, like I used earlier in our other guides as an example. They're spamming Falcons down to here, right? On the ledge, trying to 2-frame you. Well, if you go down here, double jump, fake out, and then rising tackle after the power wave, you throw off the timing completely. If you want to know if they're still spamming it, right, you can do the rising tackle a lot earlier and try to clip them. Or you can actually try to use that power wave to miss ledge on purpose. So you can hold yourself there away from the ledge and then slowly drift in. So keep all of that stuff in mind. It's how you mix up your recovery and make it a lot harder for your opponent to punish you when trying to make it back, because Terry's recovery is honestly completely awful if you don't try to cut things close and play things properly when you're off stage. So keep that in mind. Another thing is, let's say you don't want to recover low, right? Terry's air dodge honestly has a ridiculous amount of travel, dog. Like look how far he goes, right? So let's say you want to fake if you're going to recover low, like, right? You just do a quick air dodge back up, air dodge to the side. It's really not that hard. So let's say you're recovering, burn knuckle, instead of going low, just quickly air dodge to the ledge, because Terry's recovery, like his air dodge is really good. It sends him flying pretty far, so you want to abuse that a lot. It's one of the easiest ways to not have to risk going low with Terry's, like risky recovery. You just air dodge back, and honestly it's really hard for your opponent to punish and realize that, especially because of the fact that like during the air dodge he's invincible, then he like goes right to ledge and is invincible again. It's pretty safe, so use that to your advantage. Make sure you keep your double jump as Terry, just like you would with the Shotos, because you don't want to burn that. If you burn your double jump, it's going to be very difficult for you to get your charge in. One last thing I want to mention is there is a way to recover. So y'all notice that when you're recovering with Terry holding down, you're going to be stuck in what I would say a moment of weakness where Terry cannot drift to his maximum speed. So see, this is Terry drifting to his maximum speeds, right? When I'm jumping, he's going pretty far. But if I'm holding down, he can't really go too far, as you guys can see here, right? If I'm holding down, he can't, it's limited. Now there's a thing that Terry has that's called coil, where you're going to basically charge your rising tackle input by holding down on the stick, on your right stick. I'm not really going to go over that today because that's a lot of information. I'm just going to drop a link to a guide, a video that talks about that by Ronan X, who went over that. It's a really good mechanic for Terry. Personally, for me, I don't use it at all because of the fact that online, that's too many buttons for me to be pressing on Wi-Fi and hoping that I make it back safely. I'm definitely going to keep that in mind and practice it for offline, but online, I don't use that at all because it's just not needed on Wi-Fi. It's too dangerous to use on an online connection. Alright, lastly, we're going to talk about what you can do as Terry to make it back on stage once you've made it back on stage, okay? So, this is the hard part with Terry, alright? This is absolutely the hardest part of playing the character. What are you going to do when you make it back to stage, right? Because Terry doesn't have like focus attack where he can just negate hits and quickly and safely make it back to stage. So, as Terry, you're going to have to use your burst. Alright, so right now I have my opponent at kill percent because a lot of times whenever I'm at ledge, I usually got my opponent at kill percent or high percent because I'm Terry. Of course you have to have your opponent at a high percent. Now if they're not, it's okay. These tricks do work, but preferably I love using these tricks, the burst options, when they're at high percent because I can quickly cover up their options or punish them before they get something out on me, or I can get something out to punish whatever they try to get out on me before, you know, they can get back into shield or whatever other option they want to take as a defense option. Hopefully that wasn't confusing for y'all, but basically what I'm saying is I just want to burst faster than they can try to catch me at ledge. Alright, that's basically what I'm trying to say. So the first option we're going to go for is drop off ledge crack shoot. So you're going to drop down, jump, and then crack shoot. You either have to do the back B input or the crack shoot input, where it's down, down, back input, right? So I'm gonna grab ledge, drop down, crack shoot. All right, very fast burst option, gets my opponent off of me, and if they do shield, it's pretty safe because of the fact that you cross up their shields most times. And we all know that Terry has auto turnaround, so if you pick an auto turnaround option like a jab and you hit them, you're already in an advantage. All right, so next up we're going to go for jump off ledge into burn knuckle. Right here, you don't have to jump, you don't have to drop down. All you have to do is press X and then, or whatever your jump button is. You press your jump button and immediately do either side B or the input. I preferably go for the input because of the fact that it's stronger, and if they're at kill percent, I want to kill them with this, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to grab ledge, jump, input, burn knuckle. Simple as that. Now, a lot of times I like to go for heavy burn knuckle because it covers more options at ledge, and it goes a lot further. But you could go for light, which is a lot faster, and it does kill as well. It's all up to you. Next up, we're gonna go for jump off ledge power wave. Now, the cool thing about jump off ledge power wave is the fact that it has like no landing lag, has a lot of range. It's like a better get up attack, if I do say so myself. So let's say your opponent's not standing where I am right now, right? If they're standing right where I am right now, you do not go for this. You only go for this when they're standing a lot further away, right? Because if you go for the power wave here, you're gonna die most likely, and get up attack is way safer than what I'm about to show you from this distance if they're standing right here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna jump and immediately press the B button, and as soon as you do that, Terry's gonna stretch his legs back into position, and he immediately like snaps back to the ground, which is honestly insane. It leaves Terry the ability to immediately pick another option quickly, and in this instance, if your opponent shields, you're already fast enough to land, like you're already back on the ground fast enough to land like an F tilt and then cancel into like a crack shoot or whatever. And if they shielded, then that's enough shield damage to, you know, punish them or get a shield poke. So keep that in mind. You want to use that whenever they're at like a roll distance away from you. You can just jump off ledge power wave and deal with them like that. It's pretty good. Alright guys, this next tech is pretty weird because of the fact that you have to learn this tech after all the other ones I've shown you guys. All the anti-ledge trapping stuff I just showed you guys right now. Because if you don't learn those first, this is going to be absolutely useless and predictable. So the reason this tech works is because all the other ones I showed you guys were fast burst options, right? And some of them had lag at the end of them, some of them didn't. This one has no lag at the end. However, it's incredibly laggy on the startup, but if your opponent's not anticipating it, they're anticipating all the other burst options that are going on at ledge. This is going to throw them in for a loop and can possibly take their stock if they either shield or if they're just not ready for it and they're in bad positioning to get hit by the move. So what I'm talking about here is you're going to grab ledge, jump, and a lot of you guys, I've shown you guys earlier that if you do a full hop power dunk, I'm going to press down B in this instance, Terry has like no lag, alright? He has like no lag when he lands. That's what we're going for here. we're going to jump off ledge, and at the peak of our ledge jump, we're going to power dunk. And the cool thing here is we can go for heavy power dunk, or we can go for light power dunk. And if we go for light power dunk, we can change our trajectory, change the angle, so our opponent doesn't even know where we're going to land with this move. And we can also go for heavy to change up the timing as well. So heavy power dunk, the stronger, but you can't change the angle. But if it does connect, it's going to put them into a lot of stun, especially if you hit their shield. Light power dunk, you can change your angle, change up where you're going to land, make it hard for your opponent to react to because it's a lot faster on the descend part. So this is really good as a mix-up to throw your opponent off when you're above them. Alright, so now that you guys see what it looks like, here's why this works. So when Terry lands, it's as if he didn't press a move. He didn't press any move, so his landing is extremely soft, as if there's no landing lag, nothing. He just hits the ground and he's ready to act out of it immediately. Now here's why this works extremely well. So when you shield in this game, I'm gonna lower the speed for y'all real quick. When you shield in this game, I'm gonna show y'all, your shield is outside of your character model. Your character model is your hurt box, all right? So your opponent, usually when you hit your opponent, you want to connect onto their hurt box. That's when an attack connects, okay? However, in this game, to prevent shield poking and whatnot, your shield pops up away from your opponent's hurt box. As you can see right here, this is Terry's hurt box. Terry's hurt box is his model right here. The shield, however, is far away from his hurt box. It's really disconnected from him. That means that when I'm trying to land with my power dunk, I'm going to hit his shield. And if I hit his shield and connect, I'm going to be able to act on his shield after the power dunk connects to him a lot earlier than he can pick out an option the majority of the time. If he has like a frame one option like Lucina's up out of shield, they'll definitely be able to stop that. But for a lot of characters in the game, they don't have that luxury. So if I hit someone's shield like that, and a lot of times people aren't even ready to realize that I have like no lag after power dunking them from that angle, from that height, but it seems like it should not be safe, right? When I hit them on shield with that power dunk, I'm able to act out of it quickly, and I can probably get like a go confirm, a shield break, a shield poke confirm on their shield. Basically anything that will lead into my advantage on their shield. So keep all that in mind. This won't land on people consistently who aren't shielding, because a lot of times hurt boxes are pretty small in this game, but shields are huge in this game, especially after the shield buff they had a couple of patches ago. So this is definitely really good to throw out on your opponent when you know that they're throwing out an attack at ledge, and if they're trying to react to you above them and their first option is to shield, you definitely want that interaction. So keep that part in mind, keep that tech in mind. It's really important. I'm going to show you guys a couple more frames of the shield actually, just to show y'all that what I'm saying is valid. As y'all can see here, look, the entire time, look how long, how many frames my shield is way far away from my hurt box. Y'all see that? Those are a lot of frames for me, for my opponent to be holding shield, and for me to safely hit their shield and act on them for shielding. Now slowly you can see it's dwindling, and now around this point my hurt box is outside of my shield. Alright everyone, that sums up the Terry recovery guide. Hopefully you guys are able to learn something new about this character and how he recovers, how he's able to get back on stage after recovering. Hopefully I was able to give you guys new mix-ups, new ideas when you're trying to make it back to stage, because as a Terry main, as a Shoto main, all the stuff I've taught you guys in these recovery guides is going to be extremely important if you want to make it back. Our neutral is extremely dangerous, but if you can make your recovery dangerous, that means it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to finish off your stock. It's going to be very intimidating throughout the entire game when they're fighting you, and that's what you want to get, that's what you want to accomplish as a Shoto or Terry main. Now before we end this video, I'd like to say that if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me in the comments below. If you have any more advice to add on to this guide, go ahead and put that in the comments below as well. I'm welcome to any information that y'all have that I did not touch upon in this guide, because I'm gonna be 100% with you guys. Maining 3 characters for me, it's kind of difficult to touch on every single aspect that I know about, because there's just so much information in my head. So it's really like welcome for you guys to go ahead and tell me whatever thing I forgot to put into this video. With all that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next guide.